There are also many points that I consider particularly positive, especially regarding security guarantees, where it's written in black and white the direct involvement of the United States in a security guarantee proposal that then, revives an idea that was initially Italian, namely security guarantees based on the Article 5 model.
Any credible and sustainable peace plan should first and foremost stop the killing and end the war while not sowing the seeds for future conflict. First, borders cannot be changed by force. Ukraine has been at the heart of many discussions over the past days. Any credible and sustainable peace plan should first and foremost stop the killing and end the war while not sowing the seeds for future conflict. We have agreed on the main elements necessary for a just and lasting peace and Ukraine's sovereignty. And let me highlight 3 of them. First, borders cannot be changed by force. Second, as a sovereign nation, there cannot be limitations on Ukraine's armed forces that would leave the country vulnerable to future attack and thereby also undermining European security. Third, the centrality of the European Union in securing peace for Ukraine must be fully reflected. Ukraine must have the freedom and sovereign right to choose its own destiny. They have chosen a European destiny. It starts with the country's reconstruction, its integration into our single market and our defense industrial base, and ultimately joining our union. We will continue our work together with Ukraine, our member states, the coalition of the willing and the United States to make real progress towards peace. What is important is that we move forward as partners on a single track. And I want to end on a point that is personally important to me. A crucial element that must be part of any agreement: the return of each and every Ukrainian child abducted by Russia. Of all the horrors unleashed by Russia's war, none cuts deeper than this. Tens of thousands of boys and girls remain trapped in Russia, frightened and longing for their loved ones. We must place these children at the top of the global agenda. And this is why, together with Ukraine and Canada, we will co-host a summit of the International Coalition for the Return of Ukrainian Children. We will not rest until every single one of them is reunited with their families, in their homes, where they belong.
Have you heard, Trump? You discussed Ukraine, and I imagine you found some willingness to amend that 28-point plan, also addressing the critical points that you, as Europeans, highlighted, and not only also as the G7.
Yes, the US President showed willingness. We also had a rather long call with Finland's President Alex Stubb. And I found a similar readiness. So I believe the work our Sherpas are doing today in Geneva follows this intention. I mean, stepping back for just a moment, it's quite clear that all of us have always worked towards peace. We have all consistently worked for peace since the very beginning of this conflict. We've done so as Europeans and as Americans by supporting Ukraine in its crucial ability to resist against a conflict whose outcome many frankly considered to be a foregone conclusion. It wasn't so obvious. We built that deterrence on the ground that now allows us to speak of peace. I think we must claim it because it's a work we all did together. After that, clearly, in a meeting whose outcomes I unfortunately don't know because it's currently ongoing, in the American plan, as you already know, there are certainly some points that must be discussed. The issue of the territories, the issue of funding for reconstruction, the issue of the Ukrainian army. There are also many points that I consider particularly positive, especially regarding security guarantees, where it's written in black and white the direct involvement of the United States in a security guarantee proposal that then, revives an idea that was initially Italian, namely security guarantees based on the Article 5 model. But all in all, I believe that we can achieve a truly positive outcome, and we are certainly all committed to arriving at a document, a proposal that can be as close as possible to the desires, not so much our own really, but to what is truly necessary to achieve peace, to have an independent and sovereign Ukraine, and to ensure security for Europe as well. Bombo soy fashion. I don't think that's the objective. Look, I think that clearly, I don't. That's not what I see here. In the sense that you were witnesses. I have been a witness of all the times when the Ukrainians and Zelensky have clearly expressed their gratitude to the United States. And furthermore, you see, it's a deep-seated issue in the sense that the need to, let's say, keep on working with our American allies obviously also stems from the crucial importance of their role in this whole situation. Wouldn't you agree? So if we were ungrateful to them, there probably wouldn't even be a need for them, meaning we wouldn't grasp the importance they had in the conflict. Instead, everyone understands it, and they understand it very well. Just as on the issue of Europe continuing to buy gas from Russia, I, for one, explained to the President of the United States that, for example, Italy, since the war began, has done an incredible job to, at one point, our dependence was certainly significant, so perhaps, let's say, something of what happened afterwards didn't get communicated, but we, for example, have totally diversified, as you know very well, and we no longer depend on Russia at all. So from this perspective, Europe has certainly done a very significant job, but I do believe that undoubtedly some statements may ultimately serve to create, so to speak, pressure on those involved, but it appears to me that this approach is applied somewhat inconsistently. I mean, we are quite familiar with this particular method of operation, and in certain instances it has proven quite effective, as we observed in the Middle East. But the real point, I repeat, in my view, isn't the press statements. The real point is what ultimately ends up in black and white on the proposal that Americans, Ukrainians, and Europeans decide to sit down at the table with the Russians. Regarding the European partners, I think it was clear from the statement made yesterday, right? In which essentially exactly what I just told you was said, that we consider it a starting point and that we are ready to work to improve the proposal. This was in a meeting attended by all European leaders present at the G20 plus the G7 partners, so even broader. And it seems to me that we are all on the same page, So look, as for Pearl, we don't have a specific deadline in the sense that we operate based on priorities. Right now, as I've already mentioned, we are working on a 12th aid package, and therefore at this moment we are not committing to it. In the future, we'll see, but we haven't set any deadlines for ourselves. Regarding the issue of corruption, it clearly has an impact, obviously, but it also affects our public opinion. That's legitimate. I mean that I still consider it important that Ukraine has shown to have the antibodies. Ultimately, we must always remember that these arrests come based on initiatives of Ukrainian institutions. So there's probably a problem, but there are also the antibodies to manage that problem. So Deputy Prime Minister Salvini says something correct. That is, he says Italian taxpayers' money cannot end up in the hands of corrupt people. And obviously, we must ensure that this does not happen. But I repeat, it seems to me that the Ukrainian government has demonstrated a full willingness the Ukrainian institutions have demonstrated a full willingness to combat any potential corruption phenomena, which are all the more serious for them, considering they have people dying on the front lines.